Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Veronique. So I will briefly go through the key messages coming up from the technical session, knowing that there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of things that have been said and shared. So this is certainly let's say, a non-complete picture, but to have a first points also for the ones not having attended the session, I will present them. So first of all, innovating in market niche. So there were quite a few points that were discussed among participants. First of it is the fact that it's very important to having the target group close to the project in order to have innovative services. So this link with target group and project is a key for successful innovative services development and design. First bullet point, and second aspect very much linked to that is that the fact that of the proximity of target groups to the project, it helps a sort of ongoing quality review and improvement of daily practices, even to aspects that are not directly touched upon by the project, but are back to practices of the organization. So this relation is a clear win-win situation. There are some complex fields where we need a sort of economy of scale and cross-border international scale. It's much more effective. And for example, as it is in the case for regulation and certification processes, it is certainly more effective to do it at international level. And this way you guarantee an appropriate and significant impact. And then the 2C scale can be, in certain niche sector, can be a testing lab to try something new and try it at a scale that is relatively big compared to the regional or the national level, but not as big as it would be a clear international, very wide, worldwide level. So it is a testing lab that is very important in innovation project because it implies very much trials and errors. So the workshop about rethinking care through social innovation had quite important messages regarding the fact that people go back to the people. So really go back to the root because they are the potential answer for you, for your issues, and they can be indeed the solution. So there were discussion about defining social innovation, the concept itself, but people were saying, yeah, but at the end, it's really going back to the root, so to the ones who will be using the services and they will be needing the services. So talk to them, see with them what they think about it, and they might have the answer via the feedback. Then there's a lot of thinking about outside the box, because as we said in the opening session, there is increasing pressures on the public services because there is decreasing financial allocation to those services. So public sector is having trouble in, let's say, it's maybe 1 decade now, and we need to do things with less resources and better. So think outside the box. So try to find out a different solution. The early involvement of beneficiaries is another very important point, because if you develop something and then you go too far in the implementation, they might not like it. So you might have developed something that is not adapted to their needs. So you really need to have them on board and early on board. And then the unusual aspect of the partnership that is allowed by the cross-border cooperation and particularly by Interreg. We have discussed a lot about different type of partners that usually at national boundaries, they don't work together. And then with Interreg at cross-border level, they can mix them up more easily and more unusually. On the low-carbon technology workshop, it was stressed quite a lot that Interreg allows experimentation. So it's a little bit linked to what I said before on the partnership for social innovation, but on a different field. So really experiment different solution with the extra boost of ERDF funds, and eventually find out a new solution that you didn't think about it. The rollout, it's an important aspect, and in particular in this specific objective, it has to play an important role. So the link with the others organizations, with stakeholders, with other partners that are eventually be able to, first of all, disseminate, and secondly, really further roll out and go beyond what they have done. It's a very important aspect to really maximize the impact. And then there were interesting points on the fact that energy is not necessarily a core business of enterprises, of SMEs, very often. And so you really need to explain what it's in from there, what is the positive aspect, what is the gain, direct gain for them to be in the project, and so they might have a completely different perspective. When it comes to developing technology for better health, quite interesting discussion about reaching out and, again, having the relevant partner. Because you might indeed develop specific technologies, but you really need to have the relevant partnership to reach out the ones that are making the last mile and go to the market. However, we all know, and we see it in daily practices, there is a trade-off with coping with things like intellectual property management, because of course the closer you go to the market, and the less you would be able to share openly everything, because otherwise your idea, the technology might be stolen, might be used by someone else. So at program level we do allow management of IPR, so, but of course it's always a trade-off. So mixing co-creation and bottom-up approach is also very important. So having the technical side, but also having constantly the feedback of the beneficiaries has been also very much underlined by participants. And identifying different practices, it's also interesting, for example, in the health sector, because the health system can vary from member state to another. So they may be confronted with very different challenges. On improving climate change resilience of our area, there is a lot about involvement of owners, of landowners, for example, direct really stakeholder, people directly affected by your measures. So, and people were talking about the fact that some beneficiaries, like for example, in the agricultural sector, they might be a little bit skeptical about these European funds, big administration, public administration telling them what to do. And it can be very interesting to have intermediate bodies that rely and convey the messages because they have the trust of them. But also, for example, developing peer-to-peer approaches with and having sort of ambassadors of the direct beneficiaries say, yeah, well, I did it and it works, and actually you could do the same. Again, flexible approach, it's very important because situation may vary very much, both in terms of type of actors and also type of landscape. An unusual partnership is also a recurrent point of this specific objective. And then more sustainable resources for better use of our planet, let's say. Again, it's very important, also in this case, target group involvement is key for success. And it takes time to develop their needs. So you really need to involve them at the very beginning and really have a sort of pedagogical approach and having them on board and try not to have a sort of top-down and very simple language, simple, not hierarchical somehow relationship between big public authorities and the rest. Policymakers can be catalysts for triggering, let's say, a bigger impact, and they sometimes have a pivotal role when changing the legislation. So Interreg can experiment things, But it's very important that they have projects that have linked to the policymakers in order to have a really a triggering and leveraging effect. And then on a last point on the whole value chain, it's interesting to have, and sometimes difficult, but especially in a circular economy project, having the whole value chain helps you to close the loop and having everybody on board on this, in order to achieve the results you were looking for. Yeah, these were, in a nutshell, the key message from the workshop. For sure, there were many other aspects I didn't touch upon, but really to give you a little bit of an overview. I'll leave it to Lynn for the technical workshop of today.